Previously on Bomb Squad Productions.
Now, today we're going to talk about some serious business, because we talk about too many fun Marvel movies, so now we're going to talk about some serious films, which are the Yu-Gi-Oh! Films. So we're going to be dropping a podcast on the Yu-Gi-Oh! Film The Dark Side of Dimensions this week when this is premiering. And so in that spirit, wanted to talk about the other Yu-Gi-Oh! Films, because I picked the Dark Side of Dimensions for the main podcast episode, because I think that's the most character-driven film and it has the best writing. We'll talk more about that on the actual podcast. But it doesn't quite fall in line with the sort of anime nostalgia month that we had lined up. So I thought we'd talk about some of the more nostalgic Yu-Gi-Oh! Films.
Attention, Domino City! It's time for the Bomb Squad podcast to begin!
Hi, I am Tim M. Sullivan.
I'm Tanner Richard Kraft.
I'm Austin Sweebelman.
I'm Ethan Hawker.
And we have two special guests today. First, we have our returning guest,
Angie Hachiman.
Always a pleasure to have you on the show. And we have a new guest,
Phillip Hesse.
Glad to have you on the show, Phil.
Two guests!
He did it! He did it!
We are continuing our month of nostalgic anime movies with one of the Yu-Gi-Oh! Movies, and I decided not to do Pyramid of Light, so instead we are talking about a better Yu-Gi-Oh! Movie, The Dark Side of Dimensions.
But Pyramid of Light does have Joey Wheeler doing a Marlon Brando impression. I'm just saying.
True.
So if you want to get to the king of games, you'll have to go through me, the godfather of games, capiche?
We're gonna get you!
Yeah, they respect ya. I could have been a contender.
But yeah, I thought that this would be a more interesting one to talk about for approximately an hour, because, character development and stuff. So, yeah, just to introduce it, as we typically do with movies such as this, just kind of talk about our history with the franchise. We'll start with Tanner.
It's time to talk about my history! Let me tell you, as a little autistic boy growing up, I didn't have a lot of friends, but you know how I made friends? Through games that other autistic little boys would play. I don't like the way I'm phrasing that, but I'm committed. I grew up playing Yu-Gi-Oh! A lot, specifically, got into it because of a friend named He got me into Yu-Gi-Oh! And I played with him a lot, and because of that, I started getting into youth tournaments. Specifically, I started going to a local card game shop called Yeti Gaming. Back when they were in the mall, they have their own shop storefront now, but they used to be in a mall. And I used to go there every Saturday to participate in their under 14 youth tournaments. And apparently was so good that some people would show up to watch me play, which is probably very weird. And I don't even know how true that is. That's just something that I've been told by other people.
Tanner, given the things I know about you, I wouldn't be surprised if people were just watching you play Yu-Gi-Oh!
This is only the 13th weirdest thing to ever happen to me. And I used to run with this specific deck right here. My Gravekeeper's deck. Alright? This thing has won me many, many tournaments, many duels. It has never let me down. It is my old reliable. As far as experience with the show goes, I never watched the first Yu-Gi-Oh! Show, ever. I watched GX some when I was a kid, but the show I was really into, because it was the show that was actually running around 2011, 2010 when I was doing these youth tournaments, was 5Ds. I used to watch 5Ds religiously as a kid. It would be that, on Saturdays, I'd go to the youth tournaments. On Sunday, I would watch the latest episode of 5Ds, because by then it was on the DVR. So yeah, that's my general history of the franchise. Not a ton of history with the anime media, mostly with the, as a duel master myself. Back to you, Tim.
Awesome. Austin, what's your history with Yu-Gi-Oh?
I was a big-time Pokemon kid. Every bit of goodwill that I earned as a child was used to get my parents to buy me more Pokemon stuff. Every single Christmas, every car ride, every recess, and all my thoughts before going to sleep were Pokemon. Then, sometime when I was in 3rd grade, around 2002, the whole entire paradigm shifted. All my friends were playing Yu-Gi-Oh! It was almost like it was engineered to make me mad. I looked at the attack on a monster that looked like a Furby, and the number was like 300. I couldn't even play my Pokemon cards against that. That Karibo could kill my Charizard by blinking. And I was informed that Karibo is like the towel boy of Yu-Gi-Oh! Cards. I saw a Blue Eyes White Dragon that day and almost shit my pants at school. So by way of peer pressure, I conformed. I started watching the show and collecting the cards. My parents were rightfully not as all in, considering I'd already bet the house on a different card game 100 times over. I did like the show though. I got a copy of the Eternal Duelist Soul for the GBA. I saw Pyramid of Light in theaters. But I mostly remember Yu-Gi-Oh! As the franchise that taught me how temporary a fad can be, no matter how devoted everybody acts while the fad is popular. Back to you, Tim.
Ethan, let's talk about your history with the franchise.
Yeah, I wasn't as into it as some, but I was still pretty into it for a while. I mostly kind of just got dragged along by family that was more into it. I remember like in preschool actually, I got my first starter deck, which was the Yugi starter deck, because I had family who had gotten the Kaiba starter deck with the blue eyes. It was probably the first card game I properly played. Like I collected Pokemon cards, but I never played it. I collected Digimon cards, but I never played it. I think I had a few Neopets cards, but I never played that. But Yu-Gi-Oh! Was the first one I got into, and I liked the earlier seasons. Like I watched up to like the end of Duelist City, and I played a few of the games a little bit, I think, but that was like at a friend's house kind of thing. I got more into it actually as I got older. Remember I never watched that arc of the anime, but I did have a Chaos dual disc, specifically the cheaper one that didn't have the mechanical. You had to manually adjust. And I remember I got back into it for a little bit, and then the cards were very expensive, and it was like, well, I could get cards or I could get video games, and I got a lot more fun out of video games. When you're young, you get like Christmas and like maybe a couple things a year. I'm going all in on video games. Sorry, Yu-Gi-Oh!
I'm going all like you're a man at the stock market.
Yeah.
I'm about to bet some stocks at the stock market. All in on video games, to the moon, diamond hands.
Yeah, exactly. And then I sort of fell off with GX because I was like, this is kind of weird. Kind of revisit it intermittently throughout my life, just like to play a video game or something, because God forbid I try and actually play the card game now because it's completely alienated me.
What the hell is link summoning?
What's dimension?
Or limit summoning, whatever the hell it is. What is anything?
Yes. But no, yeah, that's sort of my shorthand. Like I like it, but I was never as into it as necessarily like Pokemon or Digimon for like the actual entertainment media, more for the game aspect of it.
Angie, I know we've talked quite a bit about the series. Why don't you give the class a lesson on your history with the franchise?
All right. Well, long story short, I didn't grow up with anime. I actually got into it in high school, and I never played the card game. I got into the anime, and I got into it through Yu-Gi-Oh! Abridged. So that was kind of when Yu-Gi-Oh! Abridged was updating quite regularly back then. So I started watching that, and I became really interested in the characters and kind of knowing the original story. So I binge watched all of it, and it became an obsession. I bought like the entire manga. I had my mom buy me the first like 12 or so mangas that were available in the bookstore, and then every time I'd get like an allowance for good grades, I was going to Barnes and Nobles and ordering the next few volumes until I eventually had the whole series. After that, I eventually like warmed up to watching the spin-offs, and I've since seen all of them except for Sevens now. I actually watched most of them in 2020 due to circumstances. I had a lot of extra time, so I was able to just kind of binge watch the rest of them.
Nice. Phil, give us a tour on your history of the franchise.
I was in the first grade, and around that time, a bunch of us, watching Kids WB at the time. I remember, watching Pokemon and all that. We'd play the card games and all that, but, no one of us knew how to play Pokemon. You show me one person who knows how to play Pokemon, I show you 100 that don't. So then all of a sudden, this Yu-Gi-Oh! Thing comes on. I can actually tell you, it's episode 16, when Joey fights Kyber in the field or whatever, Duelist Kingdom. And my mother comes down, and she sees this battle ox, this dragon, flame swords, and highly detailed animations, and thinks, oh, this is way too violent for my kid. So for the next couple weeks, I didn't watch it at all. And then I went and just watched it in my basement. My mom didn't even notice. And the next thing you know, I'm asking for cards when the first packs start coming out. Pretty much been into it from nearly the start with all my buddies in the first grade. The classic story of how it quickly got banned. And then we'd start just drawing our own cards and cutting them out on papers and using those in the classroom. So if they took them, we just make them again. An infinite loop. The more important factor for me is in 2004, I was at our local Blockbuster at my hometown. And I stumbled upon the monthly Shonen Jump that I'd never seen before. It was my first one, and that introduced me to the world of manga, which is my favorite, like, medium of all time. I have, like, 400 on my shelf right now. I adore manga, so, like, that was, like, such a, like, flux for my life at that moment.
Yeah, I guess, my history is not too dissimilar from most of you guys. Like, I watched it on Kids WB around that time when it was coming on, and Pokemon was all the rage. I remember not being warm to it immediately. Like, I think I didn't, like, really understand what it was based on the commercials. Like, I saw people playing with cards, and for some reason I thought it was gonna be, like, a gambling show or something. And it was just like, that doesn't sound interesting to me, which is weird because now, like, Kaiji's my favorite anime, so I don't know.
People change, Tim.
It's true. It's the character development of Tim. Yeah. Then one day I was watching an episode because I think my brother wanted me to record it when he was at Boy Scouts or something, and it was the episode where Joey is dueling Bones. And so I'm just, like, seeing him struggling against all these creepy zombie monsters. I'm like, whoa, this is different. This is cool. And from that point, I followed it religiously, watched it every week, taped it whenever I could. Even if I wasn't going out somewhere, I just wanted to be able to watch it again, you know? Like Phil said, this was my gateway to Shonen Jump. I got a subscription to that to, like, get the cards that were coming.
I never did.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, like, I had the monthly subscription thing, and I was mostly getting that for the cards, but I also started reading some of the chapters of the manga that were in there. And the first volume of that I got, the chapter of Yu-Gi-Oh! That was in that, it's during the Death Tea arc, in which Kaiba has a serial killer named the Chop Man, who Joey has to do a battle with. That was my introduction to the fact that, oh, this was dark in the manga. This is very different. That was, like, kind of what made me want to, like, see more of, like, the Japanese version and see how, like, that was very different. It was darker, had more horror elements. In a roundabout way, I think Yu-Gi-Oh! Is a big part of why I got into horror. So, yeah, it's definitely a big part of my life. It introduced me to a lot of stuff. It got me more into anime. It got me to make a lot of friends. Like, me and Angie largely became friends because of shared interest in Yu-Gi-Oh! Out of the stuff that I watched as a kid, it's, like, easily the one that had the biggest impact on me. So next, let's just talk about the film, and I'm just gonna do kind of a brief introduction on the film. So something that kind of sets this movie apart from a lot of other shonen movies is that a lot of those are just kind of like one-off stories, or if they have any kind of canonicity, they're canon to the anime TV show. This one is different in that it's actually canon to the manga. This was made specifically to be like a finale to the manga. It actually had like a little 2-chapter one-off story called Transcend Game that was just kind of an introduction to the movie. It's not necessary reading, honestly. It doesn't really give you that much more information.
If anything, it kind of just expounds on like the ending.
So yeah, Takahashi was more directly involved with this than any other piece of Yu-Gi-Oh! Media outside of the manga. Like a lot of them, it's just like creator, story by, credits, special thanks, stuff like that. For this one, he was actually executive producer and storyboard artist on it, so like he's very directly involved in the creation of it. And this was directed by one Satoshi Kuwabara. He was the original director on Yu-Gi-Oh! Zexal.
Was this around Zexal or Arc 5 when this came out?
This Arc 5, I think, was it. Arc 5 was finishing. I think it might have been Arc 5 or Reigns might have been coming out at that point.
Okay.
No, it was at the very end of Arc V.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was the very. That's why Arc V had production issues.
They're talking about manga. Please pick me up. I'm scared.
All right. And the art director on this movie is Takashi Nakamura, who is a veteran in the field. Some of the credits, just to name a few, he worked on some stuff for Space Battleship Yamato, Hachiman, he worked on Nausicaa, Macross Do You Remember Love, which we may be doing a podcast on.
We will be in September.
He also directed one of the shorts on Robot Carnival. He worked on Akira, and he is the director of the 2015 film Harmony, which is a pretty cool movie. So now let's just kind of talk about our thoughts on the film. We'll start with Austin.
So, since I left Yu-Gi-Oh! And childhood behind, the part of it that probably stayed the closest with me is this image of Seto Kaiba being defeated by Exodia from episode 1 of the show, about 18 minutes into the episode and 42 seconds in. I love that image. It's a perfect representation of anybody just getting destroyed on the internet. I think that Kaiba's hilarious in this way that sort of transcends the rest of the show, at least for me, which is cool because in Dark Side of Dimensions, not only is there a lot of Seto Kaiba, but he's a superhero now.
It's his movie.
Yeah, he is specifically credited as the main character. Eric Stewart won an award for Best Lead Actor. Dan Green won a Supporting Actor award.
You know what? That tracks. I would definitely call him the main character of this movie.
There's a point where Kaiba jumps out of a stealth jet while it's going Mach 17 just so he can make a stylish landing at a covert location in front of people who work for him. I love him in this movie. And while Kaiba's definitely the most enjoyable part of the movie for sure, seeing Yuki and the gang after all these years was surprisingly fun. Like, I showed this to my husband, who had no prior knowledge of Yu-Gi-Oh! And he actually liked the parts where it acted like a standard anime. But I gotta admit, the duels are what keeps this on, like, the nerd shelf permanently. Like, when Tim's sibling Rook said yesterday on the Pokemon podcast that Yu-Gi-Oh! Has gotten kind of convoluted, I had no idea that they meant that it's Twilight Baseball now. Every step of the way feels completely made up, and all the cards have like 3 very specific effects. It's like, ah yes, I activate my trap card, Scary Dairy, because you attacked my winged yogurt, and I have a granola griffin in my graveyard. I'm allowed to chain summon the Go Hurt Tube and his brother-in-law, Scarfay. Their special ability is that the lease on your car is now double in price.
Oh my god!
I feel like this is how our parents felt watching this. Like now we understand.
That's how my parents feel whenever I talk about anything around them.
To sum it up, the duels aren't as cool, but the storyline rules. Back to you, Tim.
Tanner, what'd you think of the movie? It seemed like you were enjoying it from your texts.
Yeah, because I live message you guys everything now for the podcast, I guess. I loved this movie. I had a blast with it, which is really cool because, like I was saying earlier, I never watched the anime that these characters were in, so they might as well have been strangers for me. Like, to put it in perspective, when I was a kid, I didn't watch this anime. I thought Yugi was a girl until I was 17, and someone made me watch an actual episode of the anime, and I was like, that doesn't sound like a woman. That sounds like a man named Dan Green. Yeah, I really love the characters. Kaiba's like the cool billionaire. Honestly, this is what billionaires should be. They should keep their noses out of everyone else's business and just focus entirely on their one niche hobby and just not bother anyone else. They should also do backflips out of stealth jets going Mach 17 and should host elaborate sports tournaments so they can get puzzle pieces and stuff. The animation and general art style is so appealing, so pretty. This movie looks gorgeous. I love the animation in this movie, so much so that, like, even though I didn't understand what was going on with the duels, the gorgeous animation and the general engagement of the storyline and the character development just kept me locked in. The third act of this movie is really weird. It starts like an hour into the movie and then just lasts through the entire movie. It's a really long third act, but I really loved it. I wanted to imagine there was a guy in the sports stadium that is, like, new to the Yu-Gi-Oh! World and hasn't been paying attention to the news. So when Kaiba's like, summon the Pharaoh, this guy in the stands is just like, what the hell is he talking about? I just want to imagine there's just one guy really out of the loop.
Ethan, thoughts on the movie?
I liked it quite a bit. The slice of life bits were probably the stuff I had the most fun with. I think the B plot makes it maybe a bit more accessible, like with or well, not the B plot, but I guess the central conflict, the stuff with Diva. Like, if I have any issue, it's that I think that his characterization and everything, like, it takes up a bit too much of the movie, maybe. Like for what is ostensibly supposed to be sort of the reunion special, where we're supposed to be spending a lot of time with Yugi and Kaiba. Like, not that it isn't compelling in and of itself, it's just I don't think they quite gel together through, like, the particularly like the second act. The animation is really good. I like the coloring is incredibly impressive that they employ here. It looks a lot more lifelike, and like there's a bit more attention paid to it as opposed to the old television anime where it was, it was early digital color, or like Pyramid of Light where everyone's just real tan now. And the CGI is even pretty impressive, I would dare say.
All right, Angie, what's on the movie?
Well, obviously I like it. As a longtime like Yu-Gi-Oh fan of the manga, of course I'm gonna love, a follow-up to the manga. And I actually thought it was a really good follow-up to it, especially when you realize that this is all about Kaiba like processing his grief for Atem, because in the original manga, Kaiba was not there at the final duel, so he never got to properly say goodbye to the Pharaoh. His whole motivation, it's less that he wants to duel him and more that he wants to see him again and give his proper farewell to him. Also really liked everything like they did with Bakura. I think the most interesting thing about the plot with Diva was that kind of like the misdirection where you think at first he's going after Yugi, but the whole time he was actually after Bakura. Yeah, I liked it. I liked it a lot. It's Yu-Gi-Oh! I love Yu-Gi-Oh! So.
Phil, what's on the movie?
This is one of those rare pieces of media, I feel like, for me personally, where like when I first watched this is my third time seeing it. I saw it in theaters. First, then when it came on home video, and then just the other night. Feels like whenever I watch it, it feels like you're coming home in a way.
Mm-hmm.
It's all these characters, like these, like this, like old like friend group or something like that. Like and they all like have the same actors and everything. It's a lot of fun to watch. It's beautiful. So it's funny about the CG. I wasn't too crazy on it only because I'm like, man, Dark Magician and the Dark Magician waifus look really good on with this 2D animation. I wish Blue Eyes had his striking lines like in the show. But, it's fine. They probably were able to do a lot more with the CG. I get it. There's also, like, an incredible amount that I respect of reservation with this movie. Like, I think everyone was expecting, the Pharaoh to really come in and, like, yeah, he saves the day, but I mean, like, really come in and, like, flex some muscle on everyone. But, I love that he doesn't speak a word throughout the whole movie. I think that is so cool that he just comes in, does his job, leaves, and makes sure he can never come back. Yeah, I love this movie. Great. Also, Kazuki Takahashi fashion, on point, as per usual. Those designs, those outfits, Stella, Kaiba's knee pads, amazing.
I mentioned like no less than 7 times in the group chat. Man, everyone in this movie got drip.
Everyone's hot. Everyone's hot.
I kept talking about Yugi's drip. Yugi has immaculate drip. He has big energy. The man may be the best character in all of fiction.
Joey's wearing his Battle City shirt with his Duelist Kingdom jacket. It's so good.
He's a bunch of kings and queens. God.
No Joey Duel, so 4 out of 10.
Fair enough.
Understandable.
Understandable. Have a great day. Glad you all seem to enjoy it and get a lot out of it. Yeah, I love this movie a lot. I saw it in the theater when it came out. I bought the Blu-ray. I've seen the dub 3 times. I've seen it sub twice. I definitely agree. Like, Kaiba's just so great in it. They take his just like extra energy and amp it up to 11. Like, just seeing him just standing in the middle of a 4-way intersection in the rain blocking traffic is the funniest thing in the world. I do agree that kind of the weak link is the whole like Plana, Aigami, Diva plot, and really I think that it basically just serves to move the more interesting plot points forward, like the stuff with Kaiba and Yugi and Bakura. I think it could have been developed a little better. Like Takahashi initially wanted to make this as like a mini-series. I think that if it had gotten a bigger runtime as like a series adaptation, it could have fleshed out some of those underdeveloped plot points a little bit better. But I think that the stuff that was really impactful, like it works really well. One aspect of it that I appreciate that they brought back from the manga is the body horror. There's a little bit of body horror in this movie. Just like when you see the Millennium Ring in Bakura's chest, that's something that they brought back from the manga, where you see him in like the bathroom at the school and he has the Millennium Ring going into his chest. And there's just like a bunch of stuff like that. And then at the end, when Aigami infuses with the ring and it just becomes a Cronenberg monster, that stuff's great. I love it. Yeah, actually, I have something to show. So I have my Blu-ray with me right here. As you can see, signed by Eric Kaiba Stewart.
Phil tries to show his Blu-ray and Tim's like, "You've activated my trap card!"
Eric Stewart!
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah. Meeting him was fun, and I'm glad I was able to get him to autograph it. Someday I want to meet Dan Green. Hopefully he'll come out to a con sometime. Really enjoyed the movie. Always enjoy coming back to it. And now we are going to take a quick ad break, and we will be right back.
See you soon, kids.
And we're back. And we have one more question. We're just going to talk about some of our favorite scenes, because I think this movie's got a lot of really cool scenes.
For me, there's a lot of like cute little stuff. I really like seeing Joey back in the mascot outfit. Sort of calling back to the gag about him being a dog beneath Kaiba. That sort of fantasy sequence. I think that is funny, and I mostly just like them in the mall, sort of being friends. Like any scene with the gang just being friends is probably my favorite scene. I love the way Yugi is able to stand on his own 2 feet and defeat Kaiba himself. I think that's really perfect as like a conclusion to his character, because not only did he, defeat the Pharaoh, but he also defeated who was ostensibly his greatest rival without requiring help from the Pharaoh. Really good stuff there. Really good like character coming to fruition. Kaiba intentionally losing when they fight against Dark Diva, Zork Diva, sort of, allowing himself to lose, which is obviously something that Kaiba normally would not want to do.
Character development, baby.
Yeah, it really brings him not splattering Diva with the landing gear on his Blue Eyes jet earlier in the film when he goes like right above him, which I feel like early Duel Monsters Kaiba very much would have done. He had no respect for other people's lives. What a king. Just like most billionaires.
I'm glad that you brought up the stuff with Joey in the dog suit working at the ice cream shop, because that brought up something that I was going to mention. I forgot to. So the clown guy that Joey was working for, he is...
Yeah, you told me.
He is a subtle reference to the manga. He is a character who is only in the manga. He is Duke Devlin's father, and that means Tanner. You get to say the thing.
Dad's rock, baby.
There it is.
Dungeon Dad Monsters.
Kaiba would disagree.
That was my most powerful dad's rock yet.
All right, Tanner. Now that we got you in Dad's rock mode, why don't you tell us some about your favorite scenes?
Baby, I'm in dad's rock mode. So my favorite scene is the last hour. Everything at the sports stadium just gave me an absolute blast. Just everything Ethan said, you can kind of just copy paste here. There was a lot of moments there. I got a little choked up when Kaiba sacrificed himself. I was like, yeah, you go, Rockstar. My favorite part though was the actual literal very, very end. When all of a sudden you see a space station, and I'm like, what's going on? And Kaiba's talking to his little brother. And Kaiba's like, yo, little bro, you're 9. You're in charge of the company now. And then Kaiba dimension hops in order to go see his buddy, the Pharaoh. He's like, yo, what's up? You want a duel, baby? Just every time, at first I thought Kaiba, he's the bad guy. He wants to do some messed up shit. Then I realized he just wants to see his arch nemesis again so they can battle just like the good old days. He just wants to chase his youth. And honestly, that's a very, very relatable feeling. And then at the end, he gets that. He gets to see his friend again, and they're going to duel until the cows come home.
I like when sort of hits the fan when that Cronenberg monster comes out and the guy's head turns into a particle system. That very first guy to get in the stadium got it worse than anyone else in the movie. But my real favorite scene is when Kaiba summoned Obelisk the Tormentor and said,
It's no monster. It's a god.
I was levitating. They played a classic. They didn't explain how that record even got in the jukebox. And they did a gloating victory lap on my nostalgia.
I kind of already mentioned it earlier, but I just love everything with Bakura. Bakura was always my favorite character, so getting that elaboration on his backstory was really good. And this is gonna make me sound sadistic, but I actually really like the scene where he's crying. Because you never see that. And I'm just like, wow, this is such a great, emotional, point for Bakura.
I specifically remember when, the images were coming out and you saw an image of him crying. You're just like, I just want to know who hurt him.
I really liked that scene. It was always, one of my favorite moments. I swear that's the reason why I went to see the movie 3 times, because I just wanted to keep watching that over and over again. Another scene I really like, especially this this time around watching in Japanese is that whole speech that Kaiba has, how our souls are imprisoned in the flesh, and how people start wars and unnecessary conflict to protect our flesh prisons, and how he created this network to allow people to escape their prison and transcend prejudice and racism and stuff. I was like, damn, this is actually a really good speech. So I really liked that scene.
You know, in cinema, there are very many Gatorade get hype moments. You know, you can think about On Your Left from Endgame. You can think about when Vader comes out in Rogue One. Stuff like that. But to piggyback off what Austin said, it's not a monster, it's a god. My friends and I, my childhood friends and I, were just like, oh my god! Dude, he just owns. Look, any scene with Kaiba, he's just levitating. He is on top of the world, and you're just along for the show. I do love the moment, like, I think one of you said earlier about when Yugi's first telling Kaiba to step off, and he wants to do origami first. I think that's an incredible moment. And then obviously the ending, where Kaiba decides to transcend reality, universe, and the afterlife. It's just all of it's great, but like the obelisk moment just stands out so much in my head.
All great moments. I definitely agree. Whatever moment in Avengers got you super hyped, for me, that is Kaiba pulling Obelisk out of the ground moment. That is Atem coming out and summoning Priest Mahad to kill the Cronenberg monster. Those are just the moments every time I see him. It doesn't matter how many times I've seen the movie, I get chills. It's just so good. And it's just so good on such a visceral level. It's great. And yeah, I love Yugi just up and coming up to Kaiba saying, hey, I'm doing this and you're gonna off. I specifically remember like when that moment played in the theater, he was just like, damn!
You about to do it!
I think I agree with Angie that like my actual favorite moment is like that scene with Bakura, the flashback where you see him getting the ring and killing Shadi. Because those just like such a dark, unexpected moments. Of course, I definitely agree the ending is a very strong moment. I initially interpreted it as him traveling back in time to like see the Pharaoh when he was still alive, and then found out later that it was him traveling to the afterlife, so Kaiba's canonically dead.
Wait, Kaiba went to heaven in that moment?
Kaiba transported himself to the afterlife.
When you look at that manga you mentioned earlier, Tim, like it kind of implies he actually just sends his consciousness, but his body's just sitting there in space in the capsule.
There's just a spaceship out there with his body in it, like what's
because they talk about sending your consciousness like throughout like the metaverse and whatnot. So like,
oh God, Zuckerberg!
That ending had big like 100% of video game energy.
Yeah. Yeah,
that when you unlock the secret final boss in Kingdom Hearts.
Yeah.
Just like seeing him step up the way, and just like, we're doing this, and I'm just like, oh hell yeah. That's just such a great little moment, and like the themes of just like closure with this movie is something that made it really strong overall. Because like this was coming out around the time of like Battle of Gods, Resurrection F, where Akira Toriyama's just like, okay, we're just gonna make more Dragon Ball forever now, and Kazuki Takahashi's just like, I'm gonna make an ending to my story, and I'm going to make it perfectly clear that this is the ending of this story. I definitely like commend it for kind of being just like a more mature answer to that question. And I think that's just like a big part of what I love about it. So I think that is going to do it for this podcast. Angie, thanks for coming on the podcast. Always a pleasure to have you on. Viewers, stay tuned for the bonus cast we're doing on Bell. Angie will be on that. That should be coming out this coming Wednesday, so stay tuned. Phil, thanks for coming on the show. Glad to have you. Anything you want to promote?
Don't look for me.
Fair enough.
I like you all.
Don't look for me.
I like you all. But I like you all.
Awesome. Fair enough. So yeah, thank you all for tuning in. If you are listening on any of the audio platforms, go ahead and leave a review. Helps boost us in the algorithms.
Algae rhythm, baby.
There we go. If you are watching this podcast on YouTube, thank you for watching. Go ahead and leave a comment below. Let us know, what did you think of Yu-Gi-Oh! The Dark Side of Dimensions? What did you think of Kaiba in this movie? Do the characters have drip? Let us know. While you're down there, go ahead and give us a like if you like the video. Go and subscribe if you want to watch more. And hit the bell icon if you want to know when we're uploading stuff.
Patreon!
We have a Patreon. It's true. Many people are saying this. We also have Spotify video, which is this but uncut, so you can hear us say Tune in next week when we do a special Toei double feature with one episode on Dragon Ball Z The Dead Zone and another episode on Sailor Moon R the movie. We will see you then. Thank you for tuning in, and remember, in a few hours the sun will rise. Farewell.
Godspeed, Spider-Man!
Quick shout out to my friend Axel for providing me with colored volumes of the Yu-Gi-Oh manga. If you own the Dark Side of Dimensions Blu-ray, you can briefly see him in the Show Us Your Cards bonus feature. You can follow him on his cosplay pages on Facebook and Instagram, and you can also check out his YouTube channel Yu-Gi-Oh! For You, which includes a few videos edited by me. I'd also like to give a big thank you to everyone who's been tuning into our podcast over the last year. With your support, and Austin's hard work editing most of these, along with our shared passion for movies, we've been able to make something special that we're all very proud of. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Slid my ticket across the table and I said, sorry guys, I gotta see about a girl.